let me walk you through what's happening with Floyd Mayweather right now, because this situation has been moving fast. And every time you think it's settled, something new gets added to the pile. So here's where we are. Floyd Mayweather is currently dealing with what he's describing as a massive, ongoing fraud situation. And when I say massive, I mean the numbers he's throwing out have been climbing week by week. We started hearing about a $200,000 dispute, then it jumped to $340 million. Then Floyd himself came out and said, the total figure is actually $515 million. That's the number he's now putting on what he says was taken from him, stolen, fraudulently moved, depending on which claim you're looking at. And then, sitting in the corner watching all of this unfold in real time is 50 Cent, who, if you know anything about these two and their history, was not going to stay quiet. Let's go through this properly, because there are actually several different disputes happening at the same time, and they involve different people, different amounts, and different types of property. Floyd is dealing with fraud charges in the $200,000 range. Now, this wasn't Floyd being accused of fraud. This was Floyd as the alleged victim. Someone in his circle, someone connected to his finances or business operation, allegedly moved money in a way that wasn't authorized. Details on exactly who and exactly how were limited when this first broke, but the case got enough attention that it started circulating in entertainment and sports media. And that's when 50 Cent, who has had a complicated relationship with Floyd for years, stepped in. But here's the thing, and this is where 50 gets interesting. He didn't immediately start clowning Floyd on this one, at least not right away. The initial report was that 50 actually offered to help. Now, whether that offer was genuine, whether it was sarcastic, whether it was a setup for a joke, that depends entirely on who you ask and how you read 50's track record when it comes to Floyd. Because these two have been going back and forth publicly for years, and 50 has never once passed up an opportunity to take a shot when Floyd stumbles. So when people saw 50 Cent offers help, a lot of folks read that as the first move in a longer sequence. Like he was setting up a punchline, a $200,000 fraud situation didn't stay at $200,000. Floyd started making additional claims, and the figure that got the most attention was $340 million. That's the number that started spreading across social media, blogs, sports coverage. $340 million allegedly stolen or fraudulently taken from Floyd Mayweather, and 50 Cent's response to that number? He called Floyd a dumb ass. That's not paraphrasing. That's essentially how 50 put it publicly. He clowned Floyd over the $340 million stolen claim, and the way 50 framed it, the whole situation looked less like Floyd was a victim and more like Floyd had been completely asleep at the wheel while people around him helped themselves to his money. 50's angle wasn't sympathy. His angle was, how do you let this happen? How does someone in your position not know $340 million is moving without your knowledge? And that framing hit differently for a lot of people because Floyd has always had a very specific public identity around money. The nickname, the cash counting, the boxing records, the pay-per-view numbers. Whole persona has been built on being the guy who knows exactly where every dollar is. So the idea that hundreds of millions allegedly left without him noticing, that's not just a legal problem. That's a direct contradiction of the image Floyd has spent decades building. 50 knew that. That's exactly why you went there. Floyd came out with a new total, not $200K, not $340 million, $515 million. That's the number he put on the full scope of what he says happened to him, $515 million in total fraud. Now, when a number like that comes out, you have to ask some basic questions. Is this money that was in accounts, invested somewhere, tied up in assets, or some combination? And crucially, has this been formally filed somewhere, or is this Floyd speaking publicly about the situation? Because there's a difference between a number that's been documented in a legal filing, with supporting evidence, and a number that someone announces in an interview or on social media, that difference matters when you're trying to figure out how seriously to take the claim. What we know is that Floyd has indicated the fraud involves multiple situations, multiple people potentially, and extends beyond just the initial case that made the news. Whether the full $515 million figure ends up being substantiated through legal proceedings is something that's still unfolding, but the number is out there, and it immediately changed the conversation. Floyd separately claimed that his private jet disappeared. Not that it malfunctioned, not that there was a scheduling issue. Disappeared. As in, it's gone, and he's saying he doesn't know where it is and he didn't authorize whatever happened to it. Now a missing private jet is genuinely one of the wilder details to come out of any financial dispute in recent memory. These aren't small assets. Private jet at that level is worth tens of millions of dollars by itself. And the way Floyd described it, vanished without a trace, was the framing that got picked up, made it sound less like a business disagreement and more like someone just took it. If that claim is accurate, and if it holds up, then what you're looking at isn't just someone skimming from accounts or moving money through paperwork tricks. You're looking at physical, tangible, multi-million-dollar property going missing. That's a different category of alleged crime, and it added fuel to what was already a chaotic situation, because now you've got people trying to keep track of the money claims A&D, a missing jet A&D, whatever else might still be coming out. A separate dispute emerged involving jewelry, millions of dollars worth. The reporting described it as a new conflict on top of everything else, another layer in what's becoming a pretty complicated picture of Floyd's financial situation right now. Jewelry disputes in this world aren't uncommon. High-value pieces change hands, get loaned, get used as collateral, and sometimes the paperwork or the agreements around all of that don't get handled cleanly. But when you're already in the middle of a $515 million fraud claim and a missing jet story, adding a multi-million-dollar jewelry dispute to the mix makes the whole thing look like a pattern rather than an isolated incident. And that's the conversation that started picking up. Is this a situation where Floyd had a few bad actors around him who took advantage? Or is this something bigger, a systemic breakdown in how his finances and assets were being managed? Those are two very different scenarios with very different implications. 50 has been running a consistent parallel commentary on everything Floyd has put out. When Floyd's numbers go up, 50 responds. When a new detail drops, 50 is in the comments, on his page, somewhere in the media cycle with a reaction. 4 at the beginning, which some people read as genuine and most people read as a setup, was followed by the dumb-ass response once the bigger numbers came out, and 50's framing throughout has been consistent. This is happening because Floyd let it happen, not framed with sympathy, not framed as concern, framed as a punchline.
Took your fucking fiance, say fuck that nigga.
Now, there's real history here. These two have had a public back and forth for years that goes through different phases. Sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're openly taking shots at each other, and sometimes 50 uses Floyd's public situations to generate attention and engagement for himself. That last part is worth keeping in mind because 50 is also a very deliberate media operator. He doesn't just react, he uses these moments strategically. So when 50 clowns Floyd for losing hundreds of millions, he's doing a few things at once. He's entertaining his audience. He's reinforcing a narrative that Floyd isn't as sharp as his image suggests, and he's keeping himself relevant in a story that has nothing to do with him directly. Whether Floyd is going to respond, whether this becomes another extended back and forth between them, or whether Floyd stays focused on the legal side and doesn't engage, that's something to watch. One camp looks at the $515 million number and immediately questions it. The logic is straightforward. Floyd made an enormous amount of money over his career. But $515 million is an eye-watering total to claim was taken without your knowledge. People in this camp tend to either think the number is inflated, that Floyd is exaggerating for legal or publicity reasons, or that this is a situation where he's trying to recover from decisions that weren't purely external fraud. The other camp takes the claim seriously and points out that financial fraud in the sports and entertainment world is very well documented. There are plenty of cases where athletes and entertainers have had trusted people around them quietly drain accounts over years. The sums can get enormous, precisely because the talent is often not paying close attention to the business side. In that reading, Floyd being defrauded of a massive amount isn't unbelievable. It's a pattern that's played out before with other names in other situations. Both of those readings are out there, and neither one fully owns the conversation right now. If Floyd is pursuing legal action and given the numbers he's putting out publicly, there would need to be formal filings to actually recover anything. Then we're looking at a situation that could drag out for a significant period of time. Financial fraud cases, especially ones involving this many figures and this many alleged incidents, don't resolve quickly. Discovery takes time. Establishing paper trails takes time. If multiple people are involved, and if assets are international or spread across different entities, that adds more layers. The jet specifically is interesting because that's a physical asset that should have documentation, registration, ownership records, flight logs. If it genuinely vanished, then there's going to be a paper trail somewhere that explains where it went and who authorized whatever happened to it. The jewelry dispute is a separate track entirely. That could involve different parties, different legal arguments, and a different timeline. And all of this is happening publicly, which is unusual. Most people with financial disputes at this level try to handle them quietly. Floyd has been putting these numbers into the media cycle, which either means he wants the public pressure to be part of the strategy, or the story got out before he could contain it. The number that keeps changing is also something that will matter if this goes to court. Going from $200K to $340 million to $515 million publicly is going to raise questions about how those totals are being calculated and what exactly is being counted. The big question right now is whether formal legal action matches the scale of what Floyd is claiming publicly and what actually comes out when the documentation starts getting examined.